Hello, everyone. Thank you for attending this webinar that will give you an overview of how to use the process approach to meet objectives. My name is Carlos Pereira da Cruz. I've been working with ISO 9001 since 1989 and with ISO 14001 even before 1994 with what at the time was British Standard 7750. I do quite a lot of ISO 9001 consulting and training, but also auditing as lead auditor. So today I'm going to share with you my thoughts and experience about this topic. My presentation will last approximately 40 minutes. So our agenda for today is about what is a management system is the first topic. Then we will talk about what is the role of processes in a management system. Then we go to the process approach, so the quality management principle. Then we'll speak about the critical processes. No, processes are not all the same, so are not all with the same value. Some processes are more relevant, more critical than others. That we will show that is related with strategic orientation. Then we will speak about mapping processes, so how to design the model of how an organization works, following the process approach. Then some ideas, some principles that we follow about naming processes. Then some mistakes that many organizations do by thinking that processes and departments are more or less the same thing. And at the end, I present a kind of a test that I use. Is it a process? Because sometimes I see organizations include many things as processes. And I don't think that that is useful for having a lean model to show how critical outcomes are attained based on that model. So if you populate too much your model with processes that are not really processes, it's not useful. And at the end, so we'll have the Q&A. Well, so let's go. What is a management system? Well, according to the American Society for Quality Glossary definition, a quality management system is defined as a formalized system that documents the structure, processes, procedures, and responsibilities for achieving effective quality management. Well, I would say that it's very similar to the old definition of quality system in the now outdated ISO 8402 from 1994, the old vocabulary standard. So since the beginning of ISO 9001 in 1987, the emphasis was on structure, procedures, and responsibilities. So generations and generations and generations of auditors, consultants, and quality managers were molded in this culture, particularly about structure, about procedures, about resources. You know, processes only started to appear, the focus with the 2000 version, and even then there were some problems with that. So what is a management system? So here we speak about quality management system. Now let's go to the definition of management system. So what is a management system? So when I started working with integrated systems, I removed the words quality and environment in order to focus my attention in what was common to both ISO 9001 and ISO 14001. And what was left was management system. So what is a management system? Let us use the ISO 9000 2015 definition of management system. A set of interrelated or interacting elements of an organization to establish policies and objectives and processes to achieve those objectives. So for me, this is very powerful definition. Let us work on this. So let us substitute set of interrelated or interacting elements of an organization with the word system. So, because according to ISO 9000 2015, a system is a set of interrelated or interacting elements. So a management system is a system to establish policies and objectives and processes to achieve those objectives. And please read it again. Let definitions sink in. System to establish policies and objectives. Then processes to achieve those objectives. And then the processes used to attain, to meet, to achieve those objectives. So think about the possibilities open. A management system can be a very lean entity focused on a desired future. So have you ever looked at this definition of a management system? Seriously, have you ever looked at this definition with eyes to see? I confess, for years and years, I looked at it and never gave it importance until one day I read it again and I was shocked. I have been working with ISO 9001 since the 1980s. And at that time, I was trained in another view on quality systems, very focused on procedures and quality control. Now, I was looking at the definition of a management system and saw something I had never seen before. A management system is a system that establishes a policy, that is, a strategic orientation, a set of priorities, translates that policy into a set of objectives aligned with the policy, and the objectives are concrete challenges to be achieved, and then start working systematically through processes to achieve these objectives. So I would say that processes are the lever point. An organization is a set of processes. So the current organization is a set of current processes. And the current organization delivers the current results. And the current results, that means the current performance. So if we want that our organization arrive at better results in the future, we need to have a different organization, an organization with different processes. So a management system is about promoting, commanding, supporting, accelerating this transformation. That's why I like to use this kind of image. Processes are where the rubber meets the road. It is through processes that we act and change an organization. Now, so this changed everything. So this changes makes us think about processes and the management system as about changing reality to meet future desired results. Many times when I'm auditing organizations, what I see is organizations that are kind of seeking stability. So to comply with procedures, comply with a standard. My point of view is the more mature is the system, the management system should focus on meeting future desired results. So when projecting into the future. So can you think about the consequences of this definition of management system? A management system is not about procedures, it's not about documents, it's not about stability. It's about changing reality to meet future desired results. It's about commanding an organization into a desired future. So let's see how to promote this transformation. And for that, we start with the process approach, the quality management principle. So the statement is something like this. Consistent and predictable results are achieved more effectively and efficiently when activities are understood and managed as interrelated processes that function as a coherent system. So two remarks here: results and processes. So it is easy to relate those consistent and predictable results with the objectives referred to in the definition of a management system. And now, what does the same ISO 9000-2015 say about what a process is? A set of interrelated or interacting activities that use inputs to deliver an intended result. So it is through our activities that we achieve intended results. So we may see an organization as a coherent system, a coherent whole made of a set of interrelated or interacting elements called processes. And it is through those processes that an organization achieves its intended results, its objectives. So at the first glance, we may have something like this. As examples of intended results, things like better sales, better margins, better services, less complaints, less defects, less cycle times, more satisfied customers. And now we can open. Now let us zoom the organization, open the black box to find out which processes are present and how they interact, something like this. So when this organization, and we can translate this into an example. So when this organization wins a new project, process 1, they must start ordering resources, process 3, needed to provide the service. At the same time, winning a new project means developing a new service, process number 2. New resource needs will be determined and service preparation, process 4, may start. Then, at an agreed date, the service provider may start the service, process number 5. So we will see later in another slide that processes 1 to 5 belong to what we can call main processes. Processes that exist to deliver the main output of the organization. And process number 6, maintain equipment, belongs to another set of processes, processes that support the main processes. So now, what I like to see is our organization, our system is a set of interrelated processes, and it is through these processes that we try to achieve our organization's intended results. So we can see processes like variables in a mathematical equation that we operate to meet intended results. Okay, so now I said before that some processes can be critical while others are not. So let us see how to do that. Oh, by the way, creating the future, engaging and working with the future. So it is when we do let's see this later, okay? So let's go back to again to ISO 9000-2015 clause 2.1.2.3, where we can read these processes interact to deliver results consistent with the organization's objectives and cross-functional boundaries. Some processes can be critical, while others are not. Some processes can be critical, while others are not. So when we model how an organization works, we include in the model a set of processes. These processes are needed, but not all processes have the same impact or influence in meeting each objective or intended result. So let us see an example. Okay, so let us consider this matrix that relates processes and objectives. Processes are where the rubber meets the road. So whatever an objective the management wants an organization to achieve, it is only a dream if one or more processes of the organization are not mobilized and changed to do that. So in the matrix above, meeting objective, better sales, requires working on the process, win project. Meeting objective, less complaints, requires working on processes, prepare service, and provide service. Meeting objective, more satisfied customers, require working on processes, develop a new service, prepare service, and provide service. Now, and we can continue. So better margins is through developing a new service, better services through develop a new service and order resources, and less cycle time through prepare service and provide service. Okay, these connections, these linkages between processes and objectives are specific of this particular organization. Okay, no, this is not applicable to any organization. In this particular organization, in its particular state of development, of maturity, it's like this. Okay, so now check the process, maintain equipment. It must exist, but does not contribute directly to any overall objective. So processes like this one are tricky. So if you are excellent in these kinds of processes, they will be expensive, but will not contribute to customer satisfaction or to meeting the organization's objectives. But if you make a mistake in these processes, they can contribute to customer unsatisfaction and to destroy the ability to meet objectives. So, for example, no one says, we are very satisfied with our electrical power supplier because at the end of the day, there were no power failures. We say, well, it's the minimum someone can expect, no failures. But imagine if they fail, everyone will be unsatisfied. And we say, what? They can't even do the minimum expected? So in the matrix above, also, improve brand seems impossible. So there is no process to meet that objective. So strange. Sometimes I see organizations assuming objectives, but I can see any systematic process or processes to do that. Okay, you may say that it will be the outcome of a project. But so if that is the case, it will be, how to say, it will be a temporary objective. Because once the project is removed, okay, the old behavior will reappear again. So that's why some processes are critical and others are not. So if the processes that we use that are relevant to meet our main objectives or more relevant objectives, those processes are critical. So for example, if we choose objectives that are aligned with our strategy, so if the processes that contribute to meeting those objectives that are aligned with strategy can be considered or should be considered as critical processes. Processes where I would say saving money is dangerous unless your strategy is being the lower cost supplier. So processes are tools, are levers we command to meet relevant objectives. Does your management system makes use of processes that way? Now, let's model an organization. Let's map the processes. ISO 9001:2015 states that an organization should determine the processes needed for a quality management system. So how can that be done? We need to develop a model of how the organization works, having as its building blocks what we call processes. So what I recommend organizations to do is to start with the clients. Okay, to determine the processes, start with the clients. Now, okay, so clients are not all the same. It is possible to identify and isolate different types of clients. This activity is important because different types of clients may require different processes and may mobilize different actors, may involve different inputs and different outputs. So let us start main inputs and main outputs, because different clients with needs, those needs are the main inputs, and then main outputs will serve clients will be served. I don't like to use the word client satisfied because we hope they are satisfied. I think that putting their client satisfied is a little bit arrogant, which at least we serve clients. Okay, so distinguish the different client states and identify all interactions, inputs and outputs between the organization and its clients. How do we get in contact with potential clients? How do we collect information to develop new products and services? How do we receive orders or requests for proposals? How do we deliver our products and services? Okay, let's do it. Let's make a zoom inside the black box, the organization, to see what happens between the main inputs and the main outputs. There's a phrase that I'm using many years ago, since many years ago. So jumping from one lakeshore to another without getting your feet wet. So jump from one lakeshore to another without getting your feet wet. So for many years, I have liked to visualize the process of modeling the functioning of an organization based on the process approach as if it had to cross a lake or a river from one bank to the other without getting any feet or my feet wet. So what water lilies will I have to use to jump around? So your main input is an order from a client. So what main steps can we see until reaching the main output? Okay, so I work with organizations like this. So I gather a set of people that know the organization and give them sticky notes and markers. Then I post 2 sticky notes that represent the responsible for major input in the system and receiver of the major output of the system. So, and I ask, what actions, what activities do you do when going from one extreme into the other? People use sticky notes to write things that they remember. They don't need to remember those things in a chronological order, just like a brainstorming. Write what you remember in the sticky notes. But I set a rule. One sticky note must have one verb and one noun. Something like receive. So from clients with needs to client served, I can have something like receive a request for proposal, like write a proposal, prepare or budget proposal, or present proposal, negotiate proposal. Okay, and so I said those sticky notes in a chronological order, but you can put sticky notes wherever you want, so in whatever order. So after that kind of brainstorming, one can start to aggregate sticky notes that belong to a flow of activity. So you will organize or reorganize the sticky notes in a chronological order in a flow of activities. For example, I can replace those 5 sticky notes saying that they belong to the same process called win order. So repeating the technique for other sticky notes, we develop the central sequence of processes. So plan production, manufacture the order, and deliver the order. And this is the art of the organization. These are the main processes. Everybody is working to support these processes because they serve clients and customers. So if you see, the organization should be a kind of a machine or a kind of an obsessed entity for following this flow. This is where money comes. This is how clients are satisfied, hopefully. But so from client with needs to client served. So these are the main processes. Now let's go to consider the determining the support processes. So repeating the technique, we determine the supporting processes and their relationship with their interested parties. So we need to develop products and services. We need to order materials. We need to subcontract. We need to prevent and treat breakdowns. Remember, by mapping processes, we want to develop a model of how our organization works, of how and which parts of our organization can be worked in order to meet objectives and to respect constraints. So, these are supporting processes. They exist to serve the main processes. So you know that winter sport called curling, everybody in the organization is mopping the floor to reduce friction, to easy to facilitate the customer service from clients with needs for until client serves. So let me put this border here just to help what comes next, is that, of course, this organization needs people, competent people. So how do you onboard people? How do you improve their competence? So it's another support process. Now, what is missing in this model is a brain. So let's put a brain in the system. So this is the brain of the organization. It is here that direction is set, objectives are set, performance is monitored, and decisions are made. Okay. You see here, I changed the name of the process from maintain equipment to treat breakdown. Okay. I will explain now in the next slide why. I still keep this lead organization there. It's perhaps the only process that is not following my the rules that I will say to you about naming processes. Okay, so designate each entity, so each process. Start with a verb that illustrates the transformation that takes place inside. Avoid reference to departments to avoid confusion. Remember, processes are not departments. The organization chart is not a process map. The vertical and horizontal views of an organization are very different. So I would say that processes are horizontal. Organization chart is vertical, processes are horizontal. So I like to designate a process by relating its name to the main output of that process, like in order. If we reverse the name of the process, we get the main output, order 1. Or plan production. And then what we have at the end, we have production plan or a production, yes, production was planned. We have a production plan. So while certain processes seem to be clearly determined based on a physical flow, production, logistics, distribution, transport, or a flow of information, like design, development, closing accounts, invoicing, payment, certain activities of an administrative nature seem difficult to integrate into a process view. So there may be a strong temptation to group them by function, analogy, and to baptize these groupings as, for example, human resource process, in which recruitment, training, communication, payment of wages, contract management will be mixed together. Well, I don't like this approach because processes flow process is not ordering actions. Okay. So again, about the name of the processes, I like to use, so as I said, in the name is the reversing the name, we get the main output. I like to in the name, put in the name something that we can count. So how many orders were won? When they wrote maintain equipment, how can we count maintain equipment? So, but when we put treat breakdowns, we can count the number of breakdowns. So lead the organization is not so easy. It's not possible. Okay, that's why I use it, but because I don't have any better name. Okay, and also I like to use the name of the processes in the singular, because I hope this makes people concentrate, makes people focus on what we are doing. So we in order is think about that particular order that you are processing. So plan production, think about that particular week or month that you are planning. So naming processes. So now we have our model. We have our model to get the intended results. So I really would like to be able to transmit this approach. Our model is a tool, is a lever that we command to get intended results. So I read recently a book called Strategic Reframing from Rafael Ramirez and Angela Wilkinson. In that book, I found a quote from 1981 from Russell Ackoff, something like, Ackoff contrasted 5 positions in relation to the future: reactive, which is past oriented; inactive, which is present oriented; proactive, concerned with predicting the future; proactive, concerned with creating the future; and interactive, engaging and working with the future. So I would like to be able to see more, to make organizations work more and more in those two approaches, like creating the future, engaging and working with the future, and not so much as looking into the past, so or looking into the present. So because I think that we should see the management system as something that pulls us into the future. So processes are a way of operationalizing our strategic ideas. So one thing that normally I see in organizations is what I call the paradox of processes. Sometimes I see organizations that use a very generic model based on what they call processes, but are no processes at all, and set as quality management system objectives the list of objectives for each process. So those organizations are not aware of one of the main properties of a system, emergence. So it's because of emergence that we say that in a system, the whole is more than just the sum of its parts. So the paradox of processes is realizing that optimizing the performance of a system as a whole is not the same as optimizing the performance of each of its parts. So optimizing all processes does not generate the optimum system. An organization produces the overall results of the whole. These are the most important results. As an organization is the result of a sum of processes, we can state that, on the other hand, each process individually produces operational results. So the interesting thing is that the optimization of the overall results is achieved not at the expense of optimizing all processes, but through the selective optimization of some processes and the deliberately less positive performance of others. Okay, some processes must be subordinate to others in order to get the not to get what we call the overall maximum. The overall maximum. So in an attempt to explain this paradox, I will try to use an illustration, let me see, that compares the performance of a process, an horizontal entity, with departmental performance, hierarchical or vertical entity. So let us consider the organization chart of a company. Very simple. We have top management, sales department, purchasing department, production department, expedition department. Some organizations will say, oh, this is our pro. They don't put department. They say sales process, purchasing process, production process, expedition process. That's wrong, but okay, let's continue. So looking at each of the departments separately, we can identify some indicators used to assess departmental performance, something like this. So sales department as an objective is to increase sales, purchasing department to maximize savings, production department to minimize production costs, and expedition department to minimize expedition costs. So each department is evaluated based on the performance of its indicator. Thus, each department seeks to improve the performance of the indicator that suits best its interests. So, however, when we think about processes, when we think of the transversal, the horizontal entity that crosses them, the departments, you see, sales department can meet its own objectives, even though all other departments and the company as a whole are harmed. So increase sales, even if they are unprofitable, it's not my problem. Or for example, maximize savings, even if suppliers generate chaos internally, it's not my problem. And I knew an organization where this happened. Purchasing department, every year one bonus, and all the rest of the organization was chaos. Production department, minimize production costs, even though clients go crazy with delays in deliveries. They will say, it's not my problem. I'm not evaluated on that. So, and I knew this year I work with an organization like that. So expedition department, minimize expedition costs, even though clients go crazy with delays in deliveries. They will say, it's not my problem. I'm not evaluated by that. And this year, I worked with an organization when this happened so many times. It was incredible. Clients were unsatisfied, calling and calling and calling. Now, let's see the process win order with an objective is win profitable orders. So that is not an objective, it's the purpose of the process. Win profitable orders while meeting sales objectives and satisfying clients. So we want to win orders, yes, but profitable orders. We want to meet sales objectives, yes, but the orders must be profitable, and we want satisfied customers. So to be profitable, we must pick the right customers. To be profitable, we must buy with a good price. To be profitable, we must have minimized production, not minimize, but we must take care of production costs, and we must take care of expedition costs. But at the same time, we want satisfied clients. So the overall results are the most important. Everything must converge towards them. So if you use as objectives of the system, the objectives, the sum of the objectives of each department, will not get this, and you will suffer from the paradox of processes. Yeah. Okay. Now, beware. Again and again and again, I see organizations that design processes, call them processes, but are talking about departments. Process is flow of actions. Process is flow of actions. Processes is horizontal. Processes, just imagine you are receiving an order and you are an electron writing that order. What do you see until the client receives the order, receives the product or receives the service? What do you see? Hmm? What kind of activities do you see? That's the flow. That's why processes are horizontal. Um, Processes are horizontal. Processes are not ordering of actions. Hmm? So as I said before in the previous slide, normally what people do, they call human resources processes. And what do they put there? They put things like, oh, how do we onboard people? How do we train people? How do we pay wages? How do we take care of vacations? How we take care of discipline? How do we so okay, but that's not a process. Okay, that's not horizontal. Okay, I when I think about this, I always remember, because of my chemical background, I always remember um, how to say, oil, olive oil and water, and if we mix the olive oil, becomes a wall again. But if you put a little bit of soap, we see the the olive oil will be separated in kind of different entities, different cells, like let us say so. And because of the soap will make this. And when I see these human resource processes and all the other things, is like having olive oil, and then the cells also from the soap, making that separation, that border. Okay, one last topic. Don't overload your process-based model with entities that don't belong there. Many years ago, I was dealing with this temptation myself. What should be a process? I developed a personal criterion based on ISO 9000. Now I would say based on ISO 9001 2015 clause 4.4.1 that states something like, determine and apply the criteria and methods, including monitoring, measurements, and related performance indicators needed to ensure the effective operation and control of these processes. So if we have a process, we must have at least one indicator. Okay, so I apply this test. For example, okay, organizations can, I see this kind of processes in organizations. So I would say something like this: can or should document. This is my test, so for my chemical background. So this document control, should document control be a process to include in the QMS model? So what I do is I invite people to think about the purpose of the process. Think about the purpose of the process. What kind of indicators can you develop about document control? Okay, now you have 1 or 2 or 3 indicators about the document control. Now imagine reporting those indicators to top management. What will they say? Will they find those indicators useful for them? If they don't find useful, or worse, if they start having second thoughts about your mental health for thinking that they would like to know about these indicators, it is a clear sign, don't include in the model. So based on this, I don't consider internal audit as a process, for example, corrective actions, monitor and measure, define QMS, calibration, supplier management. Okay, supplier management can be an indicator in itself, okay, about the order material process. Or control of non-conformities, that will be indicators regarding the order material, the plan of the manufacturing orders or subcontracting orders. So, okay, this is my opinion, okay? I never forget the word or the phrase, all models are wrong, some are useful. If it is useful for you, okay. All right, so let's go to our Q&A.